You're listening to Real Life, No Filter, where raw emotions and real moments take center stage. No masks, no filters. Just honest stories about life, love, and everything in between. Get comfortable. We're about to begin. Michael Miller sank into the chair behind his desk, burying his head in his hands. This day seemed endless. 2 decades. 20 years without reservation he had dedicated to his calling. Surgery wasn't just a job, it had become his world, his essence. Even as a teenager, he had cherished the dream of saving lives. Therefore, the choice after school was obvious: medicine. Admission presented no difficulties. Michael had always studied diligently, finding disciplines related to natural science particularly easy. The years at the academy flew by fascinatingly. Anatomy, which was a sheer nightmare for many students, he studied with an almost mystical obsession. It was as if he felt it intuitively. The first practical session didn't cause him to faint at the sight of blood. On the contrary, he eagerly absorbed the knowledge of his mentors. They predicted a brilliant future for him, as it was rare for someone to show such deep passion for the medical profession. It seemed that being a doctor for Michael was not just a profession, but a higher calling. The predictions came true. After his internship, Miller was sent to the regional hospital, unheard of luck for a graduate. From the first days, he began to confirm his high title as a doctor. Michael tirelessly honed his skills. His hands were truly golden. The chief physician immediately noticed the exceptional talent of the young surgeon. Colleagues didn't hide their envy, not yet 30, and he was already tackling the most complex operations. The hospital staff was divided into two camps. Some admired Miller, seeing him as an ideal, while others whispered about connections, devilish luck, and other tall tales. But despite everything, Michael rapidly achieved one professional victory after another. What others thought of him didn't matter in the slightest. The only thing that truly concerned him was human life. Miller's career steadily climbed. In 20 years, he had saved thousands of lives, working practically without days off or vacations. The surgeon completely forgot about himself. He never started a family. Of close relatives, only his mother remained, always supporting her son and doing everything to make his dream come true. Of course, there had been women in Miller's life, but he couldn't build a lasting union with any of them. No one could endure his lifestyle. For him, work always remained the absolute priority. And now, after so many years, his impeccable reputation had wavered for the first time. A patient had died on the operating table. This was the first time in his many years of practice. Everyone understood. A medical error was out of the question. Miller's skill was undeniable. The patient had been brought in an extremely critical condition. There was almost no chance of survival. For the medics, his death was a predictable outcome. Only a miracle could have saved that person. Alas, a miracle didn't happen. No matter how brilliant Miller was, he wasn't omnipotent. After the unsuccessful operation, he simply went to his office and locked himself in. He didn't want to see anyone. The deceased's relatives were not yet at the hospital. The news still had to be delivered. Michael didn't know where to start. Usually, he saw faces beaming with joy. That expression of boundless happiness gave him strength. He, an ordinary man, entered the fight with death and often won. But now everything was different. There was a knock at the office door. Michael didn't react immediately. The knock was repeated. Miller reluctantly got up from his desk and went to the door. Behind it stood the chief physician, a stately woman in her early 40s. Anna Davis was feared by everyone except Michael. Once, she had been the love of his life. Back then, she shone as the clinic's first lady, also a colleague, surrounded by an aura of success. Serious, purposeful, she immediately attracted the surgeon's attention. He fell in love at first sight, although he always denied such feelings. To his surprise, Anna reciprocated his advances, and a passionate romance soon flared between them. But even she couldn't accept that work would always be more important to him. After living together for 4 years, Anna and Michael parted ways. Neither held a grudge. Both understood that in their profession, such a choice was often inevitable. The woman remained a loyal friend to Miller. Even after becoming chief physician, she maintained a warm relationship with her former lover. But now there was no trace of friendliness on her face. "Mike," she said, averting her gaze, "now is not the time for talking. A person died on my watch. I could have saved him, but I couldn't." Miller's voice trembled. It seemed he was about to burst into tears. "All right, pull yourself together." She sharply cut him off. "Nothing can be changed now, and you know perfectly well it was too late to save him. It's not your fault. What's the point of this self-torture?" Anna locked the door from the inside and sank onto the sofa. Michael sat beside her, leaning back heavily. "I know," he exhaled, "but I can't help myself. This is the first case like this in my entire career. I'll blame myself anyway, I can't do anything about it." "That's wrong, Mike." She gently placed her hand on his. "You have to accept that you can't always save a patient." "Not always. Many doctors face this, I agree. It takes time to get through it, to reconcile, to accept. But you have to move on. While you're suffering here, people still need you. That's the main thing. Have you even had a break recently?" "What does that matter?" Miller asked indifferently. "It matters a lot," Anna almost shouted, frowning. "Take at least a week. You desperately need it right now. Get a grip. I can't let you fall into depression. It will affect your work. And God forbid, you might even leave the profession. That happens too." "Never," Michael objected energetically. "Perhaps you're right. I'll go to the mountains. I always recover quickly there." In his youth, Miller was keen on hiking. Perhaps it was the only thing he looked forward to on weekends. Alone with nature, he quickly regained his strength and peace of mind. Anna hadn't suggested this type of rest by chance. She knew he would choose the mountains. "All right, don't come in starting tomorrow. I expect you back on the 3rd. Go home, get some rest." "What about the relatives?" "I'll talk to them myself. It's a delicate matter. You understand?" And he wasn't a simple person. "We're trying to reach his wife now, but the phone is silent. It seems she's away. God, I can't imagine how she'll find out about her husband's death." "Don't think about that now." "Okay, let me call you a taxi. You shouldn't drive in this state." The week flew by unnoticed. Michael had almost fully recovered. The solitude in the mountains had a beneficial effect. Miller had his own little-known roots. Upon returning, he barely thought about what had happened. The next day, he returned to work. No operations were scheduled. He saw several scheduled patients and spent the rest of the day in his office. Around 5, Anna Davis called him. Miller was contemplating death. Why? Why are some destined for a happy life, while others are doomed to fight for every breath? Why did I choose this profession? Am I so vain that I dared to challenge death itself? I am just a man. No, I mustn't think like that. Without people like me, chaos would reign in the world. Maybe Anna is right? There's no point in blaming myself for what's inevitable. It's impossible to save everyone. What's the point of giving up now? I can save thousands more lives. Miller stood before Dr. Davis's office door. For some reason, he hesitated to enter. There was a vague premonition. Dr. Davis? He peeked in. You called? Yes, come in. Anna was sitting at her desk. She looked tired. Her usual confidence had vanished from her face. Instead of a strong woman, Miller saw before him someone almost defenseless, as if she had just been crying. The chief physician's eyes were red-rimmed. What happened? He asked, concerned. Michael, she sighed. I had a very difficult conversation this morning. Mr. Trofimov's wife came to see me. The surname seemed familiar. He was surprised. He passed away a week ago. She wasn't in the country. I had to listen to a lot. Why didn't you call me right away? I wanted to talk to her myself first, to understand her reaction. But this woman... In short, she's demanding your dismissal. On what grounds? Miller was outraged. You yourself said it wasn't my fault. We all understand that, Mike. But I want to talk to her myself. How can I find her? It's useless. You see, Mr. Trofimov was an influential man. His wife will do everything to destroy your career. I explained everything to her, but she's convinced he could have been saved. You know yourself, in such cases, it's hard to prove otherwise. That's nonsense. There was no medical error. I did everything possible. His condition was extremely advanced. If he had sought help earlier, perhaps things would have turned out differently. Now listen, I'm on your side. But you know who has the power is right. This woman has connections in the ministry. She is determined to get her way. If I don't fire you now, heads will roll, including mine. I can't take that risk. You know I'll go to court. It's ridiculous to accuse me of incompetence when they let it get to that point themselves. That's your right. But right now, I'm sorry. I'll have to give in to her. I can't do otherwise, Mike. Please understand me too. Michael's face twisted into a grim smile. What difference does it make where her connections are? The truth is on our side. Alas, we live in a world of bureaucracy. Here, the one who gets to the lawyers first is right. So what's the problem? I'll hire a lawyer right now. Listen to me, Michael. From experience, I know the chances will be slim. You have the right to sue for wrongful dismissal. But right now, you need to do as I say. We don't need unnecessary problems. To hell with all of you. Do what you want. I'm free. Yes. Anna lowered her gaze. You can go. Don't come to work starting tomorrow. I'm very sorry. I hope everything works out. Michael left the office, slamming the door shut. How dare they? This is outrageous. I dedicated so many years to this work, only for some ignorant person to come along and erase everything. Yes, of course, I'll go to court. To hell with her connections. I know I'm not guilty. Let them all fail, a bunch of nobodies. Because of one death that was inevitable, hundreds who could have been saved might die. Michael didn't even bother to pack his things. He simply left the office without saying goodbye to anyone. The news of the leading surgeon's dismissal would likely cause a stir. Despite his detractors, most of the staff sincerely loved and respected Miller. Michael didn't want to explain anything to anyone. He said goodbye to colleagues and the receptionists as usual, got into his parked car, and took a deep breath. He desperately wanted a cigarette. Miller had quit the habit about 7 years ago after breaking up with Anna. But now, a clear, persistent craving came from somewhere in his subconscious. Michael drove out of the parking lot and headed to the nearest kiosk. He bought a pack, returned to the car, and inhaled with pleasure. For a fraction of a second, the long-awaited calm arrived, but with each puff, it receded. Throwing the butt away, Michael drove home. His head was in complete turmoil. He drove mechanically, moving with the obedient flow of traffic. "I should buy something, at least," he said aloud. The supermarket was a stone's throw from his house. Michael parked near the entrance and decided to walk. He walked without noticing anyone. In the store, Miller mechanically filled the cart, not looking at the products. At the checkout, he was surprised to find 4 full bags, but he couldn't put them back, could he? Michael slowly walked out and ambled unhurriedly towards home. "Young man!" a voice called from a distance. Miller didn't immediately realize he was being addressed. He hadn't considered himself young for a long time. "Young man!" The call was repeated. This time Michael turned his head. A few steps away stood a woman in worn clothes, holding a girl of about 6 by the hand. "Excuse me for bothering you. How can I help?" Michael responded. The heavy bags dug into his palms. His only desire was to get home as quickly as possible. "Mum, could you spare a little money? My daughter is very hungry." As if to confirm her words, the girl let out a quiet squeak. From her appearance, it was clear the child was underfed. The little girl was very thin, with shadows under her eyes. The mother didn't look much better. Michael knew that beggars often played on pity. He looked them over. Either they were excellent actors, or they were truly in need. He didn't want to give money, and he didn't have any cash anyway. "I don't have any cash," he said dryly. "But maybe groceries would help. I bought so much. It's more than I need for myself." The woman's eyes lit up. Michael thought. Doesn't seem like a scam. He handed her 2 heavy bags. "Here, take these. I don't remember what's in them, but there's bound to be something. When you get home, you can cook." "Thank you so much." Tears welled up in the woman's eyes. "I don't even know how to thank you. People are so callous now. They don't care about others' troubles. My pride wouldn't let me ask. But what can I do? I feel sorry for my daughter. I don't care about myself." "What happened to you?" Michael asked unexpectedly. He hadn't planned to talk to a stranger, but something inside him tightened with pain. He couldn't pass by someone else's misfortune. "Why do you ask?" The woman was embarrassed. "Our life is... You can't tell it all. Thank you for the groceries. We'll go now." "Wait," Michael suddenly called out to her. "I can see you're in serious trouble. If I can help, tell me. I'm in a difficult situation myself right now. I know what it's like when everything goes wrong." "So how can I ask a stranger?" The woman sighed resignedly. "Groceries are one thing, and even that's so much... Wait. First, I offered help myself. That's different. Second, if you're really in trouble, don't refuse. In a nutshell. Lily and I have nowhere to go. We've been on the street for 2 weeks." The woman shifted from foot to foot. Michael looked at the mother and daughter again. The woman looked sober. Her clothes, though dirty, were decent. Her speech was articulate, not like someone who drank. The girl was quiet, scared, with huge eyes. "All right." Miller looked around. "Let's do this. I live nearby, in the next building. I live with my mother, but she's at the Dhaka. There's a spare room. Come over. You can tell me everything. You can stay with me for a while until you find a solution." "You?" The woman's eyes widened. The offer stunned her. "You don't know us at all." "See? We're in the same boat. Don't be afraid. There's a concierge in the building. She won't keep quiet if anything happens. Don't be afraid. Please. I just can't leave you and your daughter on the street. You probably haven't had a hot meal in a long time. And who knows what else? I don't even know. The woman still hesitated. But we don't have a choice. There's always a choice. I'm not taking you prisoner. You can eat, drink, clean yourselves up. You can leave afterwards. But at least my conscience will be clear. All right, the woman agreed, though still doubtful. My name is Sarah, by the way, and my daughter is Lily. Michael Miller. The man introduced himself. You can just call me Michael and use you. Michael bustled in the kitchen while Sarah and her daughter freshened up. Margaret Miller, his mother, rarely stayed in the city in the summer, preferring the dacha. Her son hadn't even had time to tell her anything. I wonder what Mum would say if she were home, Miller thought. Would she scold me? No, probably the opposite. She'd be worried herself. She's not one to abandon someone in need, even strangers. Miller had finished cooking a stew by the time the guests finally appeared in the kitchen. Sarah and Lily had changed into Michael's clothes, old t-shirts and sweatpants. Seeing them transformed, Miller was surprised. Sarah looked significantly younger than he had first thought, a young woman in her 30s, with long blonde hair and huge grey eyes. The girl was her exact miniature copy. From their appearance, one thing was clear. They hadn't eaten in a long time. Both were very thin. Michael didn't delay and invited them to the table. Well, he said awkwardly, enjoy your meal. I hope my cooking doesn't disappoint. I made a stew. Just eat slowly so you don't get stomach aches. Sarah and Lily began to eat. The girl was shy at first, but her mother reassured her. After dinner, Michael served tea. Sarah gradually came to herself. A blush appeared on her cheeks. Lily, Michael said to the girl, maybe you'd like to watch some cartoons? Yes, the girl replied uncertainly and looked at her mother. She nodded. Miller turned on the TV in the living room and settled the little girl on the sofa. Left alone with Sarah, he began to ask questions. Tell me, Sarah, what happened to you? Sarah was silent for a long time, gathering her courage. Finally, she decided. I couldn't take it anymore. I just grabbed Lily, a little money, and left. At that moment, I didn't care where I was going. The main thing was to leave that horrible place. Horrible place? In Michael's imagination, a prison cell appeared. Yes, my home, you understand? My husband isn't just a tyrant, he's worse. But Lily and I had no one but him. I endured the abuse for a very long time, but everything has a limit, the woman cried. Was it really that bad? Did he hit you? Sarah nodded. Several more minutes passed before she could continue. I married Tom when I was very young, not yet 20. My parents died, I was completely alone, and Tom seemed like a savior. He courted me beautifully, carried me in his arms. 3 months after we met, he proposed. I saw no reason to refuse, because back then I thought I loved him. We lived well. My husband worked in a bank and earned good money. But he didn't allow me to work. He believed a wife should take care of the home and children. I didn't argue much, although even then I should have wondered what kind of person he was. Until Lily was born, he didn't allow himself such things. Of course, he would lose his temper sometimes, be rude, ignore me. He wouldn't let me leave the house. I had to stop seeing my friends. For 5 years I couldn't get pregnant, which infuriated Tom. He accused me of infertility. And then suddenly, I found out I was expecting. I don't know how it happened. I hadn't been examined. God just sent her. Throughout the pregnancy, Tom was happy. He really wanted a son. He didn't allow us to find out the baby's sex, he just believed. And then, a girl was born. Yes, Michael sighed. Yes, Sarah nodded. And from that moment on, it was as if he was replaced. He hated me and Lily. He never loved her, but he tried not to show it in front of his parents and friends. Yes, he bought her everything, didn't deny her anything, but he didn't feel fatherly affection, and his attitude towards me changed drastically. If before he might just yell or ignore me, after Lily was born, he started hitting me often. It started with slaps. If I raised my voice, punishment immediately followed. I endured it, and then it got worse. One day, Tom came home drunk. I went to the bedroom to avoid a conflict. When he came in, I pretended to be asleep, but that didn't suit him. He started waking me up and beat me very badly. The pain was unbearable. I screamed. Lily woke up. Even the neighbors were knocking on the door. There was blood everywhere. But Tom, he has connections. He quickly covered it up, threatened to kill me if I went to the police. I was a fool to listen to him. I shouldn't have been afraid. And what would I have told the police? That my husband beats me? People live like that. In the end, it became a system. He started getting drunk often after work, and beatings inevitably followed. I had nowhere to go. I was afraid of the police. Did he beat you every day? No, not every day. When he was sober, he pretended nothing had happened, even tried to show affection, took me places. He hit me in a way that only left marks on my body. He knew that bruises on my face would attract attention. It wasn't in his status to have such a wife. His parents and our friends often visited. What about his parents? Didn't they suspect? Of course they suspected. When I told my mother-in-law, she just laughed at me, told me not to dare slander her sonny. When I showed her the bruises, she said, "You're running around God knows where with men. They beat you, and you pretend to be a saint." What men? I had no one but Tom, and my father-in-law. He felt sorry for me, but he said, "You are a wife. You must endure." Can you imagine? Sarah cried. The memories clearly caused her great pain. This went on for almost 6 years. I lived in a real hell. Tom became more and more cruel. The nightmare began when Lily was with her grandparents for the weekend. He kept me locked up all weekend. I don't want to describe the details. It was endless. The last time he outdid himself. I needed to go to the hospital, but he forbade it. When Tom saw that I was covered in blood, he finally took pity, and I was taken. It turned out to be a miscarriage. I begged the doctor not to tell my husband. Seeing the bruises on my body, the doctor said he would immediately report it to the police. But I insisted on secrecy. I said I fell off a ladder. We were renovating. The doctor shook his head, but without my consent, he couldn't do anything. I would have. But he agreed not to tell Tom about the miscarriage. I understood. If he found out, he would simply kill me. He wouldn't care that it was his fault. When I was discharged, he was waiting at home. He didn't even come to pick me up. Can you imagine? Most of all, I was afraid for Lily, but thank God she was with her grandmother all this time and had a good time. Can I even say that? Tom went on a business trip. He didn't usually travel, but there was some conference. For 2 weeks. I realized this was my chance. I had to run without looking back. I just couldn't live in perpetual fear and pain anymore. But where? He didn't give me money. There was only enough for groceries, but that amount quickly ran out. I packed my things as soon as he left. I didn't tell anyone. It was dangerous, especially since I have no relatives or friends. I asked my father-in-law for a little money, supposedly for Lily's things. He seemed to understand everything. This man was the only one who tried to help. But he had lived his whole life under his wife's influence, afraid to go against her. Who am I to judge him? I was in a similar position. And what did you do? Where did you go? That's just it. Nowhere. I rented a cheap room in another district, far away. I thought about finding a job, but I had Lily with me. There was no one to leave her with. There was no money for kindergarten or a nanny. After 3 months, the money ran out. I would have survived somehow alone. I found a part-time job, cleaning floors in the evenings. Michael looked at this fragile woman. It was clear she wasn't used to hard labor. He imagined how difficult it must have been for her to decide on such work. I have no education, no experience. Where else could I go? And I was very afraid that Tom would find me. Before marriage, I was studying, but I dropped out after my parents died. And Tom forbade it completely. Only the house, damn it. And here I am at 31 with a child, in constant fear. All of this can be solved. I understand you're scared, but I can help. And how did you end up on the street? How long has this been going on? We lived in the room for 3 months. When the money ran out, I persuaded the landlady to wait, but her patience ran out, and we had to leave. First, we were at the train station. I tried to get into a rehabilitation center, but I was afraid Tom would find me. So we wandered. I had to quit my job. I had nowhere to leave Lily. And then I had to swallow my pride and start begging. I knew this was the end, but there was still hope for a miracle. And then it happened. Sarah tried to smile, but started crying again. Michael put his arm around her shoulders and tried to comfort her. Sarah, listen. I won't promise you the moon, but I think I can help. Stay with me for now. Mum will be back soon, but she'll understand. She won't kick you out. I have a friend. He has a private clinic. I can get you a job there as an administrator. It's not the most prestigious job, but it's a start. And then we'll see. Really? In Sarah's huge eyes, a mixture of joy and doubt. I'll do all the housework. I don't want to be a burden. What about your husband? You'll have to get a divorce. With the child, only through court. He'll take Lily. Do you understand that your chances of keeping her are slim? I have no job, no home, and he has money, an apartment, influence. Forget it. Everything can be solved. I also have influential acquaintances, lawyers, even a judge and prosecutors. Are you in law enforcement? No, not at all. I'm a surgeon, or rather I was, until today. How's that? Sarah was surprised. I was fired today. A patient died, and although it wasn't my fault, his relatives are convinced otherwise. He wasn't a simple person. I don't even know what to do now. But I won't let it go like this. For now, I had to give in to the chief physician. All that's left is to sue. Right now, I need to recover. Michael and Sarah sat in the kitchen for a little longer, talking, after which the woman went to bed. Lily was already sleeping peacefully with the TV on. Sarah gently picked up the girl and carried her to the bedroom. What are you saying? Margaret Miller's voice was extremely agitated. How fired? How dare they? You can't find a specialist like you anywhere. Mum, it's too long to explain over the phone. I don't want to. Come over. You have nothing to do right now anyway. And I need help. I'm redoing the flower bed. It's hard digging. Will you come? Michael thought about Sarah and Lily. It felt awkward leaving them, and probably dangerous to leave a stranger alone in the apartment. Her story, of course, didn't raise doubts, but anything can happen in life. Refusing, taking Sarah and the little girl with him wasn't an option either. Okay, I'll be there by evening. I need to finish some things. I'll be waiting, son. You haven't done anything foolish, have you? Mum, stop it. See you soon? Miller hung up. He had just woken up. The conversation with his mother had fully roused him. I'll have to go. Okay. I'll hope for Sarah's decency. I feel she's not the type to repay kindness with malice. Michael went to the kitchen. To his surprise, Sarah was already busy. She had managed to clean up and prepare breakfast. Coffee was steaming on the table. I heard you woke up and decided to quickly make some coffee. Is it okay that I'm making myself at home? Of course. Miller smiled. Make yourself at home. Honestly, I didn't expect breakfast. How else? I've been doing it mechanically for so many years, and this is the first time, with pleasure. I don't know if you eat scrambled eggs and Serneke? Michael looked at the table in surprise. Sarah had prepared more than just scrambled eggs. On a plate was a mountain of Serneke, cheese pancakes. He hadn't seen such since childhood. Wow, Serneke. Haven't had them in 100 years. Exactly how Dad used to make them. Margaret didn't make these. It was his signature dish. After the divorce, Mom erased Dad, and Serneke were banned. Michael ate with gusto. I got the recipe from my father, too. Apparently men have the same weaknesses. Dad often made them. Then I learned. What a coincidence. Sarah smiled. Is Lily still sleeping? He asked. Has she been up long? I gave her some pencils and paper. She's drawing. She loves it very much. Then we urgently need to buy art supplies. I'll go downtown and look. Great. Sarah was genuinely happy. Maybe you need something. Should we go together? Sarah was embarrassed. I don't feel like going out. Got it. No problem. Tell me what to buy. I'll bring it. As you can see, I don't have many women's things. Nothing needed, thank you, the girl replied modestly. Well, look. Miller shook his head. You're shy for no reason. I'm not shy, Sarah blushed. I just don't know what I need. You have such a house. It seems everything is here. Sarah, Miller began, finally deciding to tell her about his trip. Here's the thing. I need to go away for about 3 days. Can you manage without me? I'll buy groceries. If you need anything, order delivery. I'll leave my card. How can that be? Sarah was frightened. Are you really leaving us alone? You don't know me at all. What if something happens? A global flood? Go down to the concierge. She has the numbers for all services. I'll tell the doorman that my sister came with her niece so they know. But I won't even go out. That's fine. But can you take Lily into the yard? The girl needs fresh air. The yard is enclosed. There are no outsiders. Go out the back way. I'll show you. And I'll go downtown quickly. We'll discuss everything, okay? Sarah stood by the stove, completely bewildered. She hadn't expected such trust from a stranger. Michael arrived in Colladino in the evening. The dacha village wasn't far, but the roads were congested. His mother met him in the garden. The miller's dacha stood in a picturesque spot, surrounded by forest. Michael loved these pines, the air filled with resin and needles. The vegetable garden was small. Margaret Miller's main pride wasn't the beds, but the flower gardens. Hundreds of shades were already fragrant. Neighbours gasped, believing Margaret knew some secret to her luxurious flower beds. She herself claimed that her only fertilizer was love. Michael talked with his mother. This woman had long passed 60, but she looked great and led an active life. When his father left, she was left alone with a 7-year-old son. It was hard, but it wasn't the work and worries that weighed her down. On the contrary, physical labor helped her not think about her ex-husband. She had loved Robert fiercely. Margaret tried to please him, kept house, raised their son, worked, took care of herself. But one day, when Mike started first grade, Robert came and started packing his things. Margaret thought it was a business trip, but he took her hand and said he had fallen in love with someone else. It seemed like a joke to her. Robert explained something, but she didn't hear him. When the door closed, she came to her senses. At first, she tried to get him back, even found where he was living. She saw the other woman. They looked happy. Then Margaret understood. Her husband was gone forever. She didn't make a scene. She just erased him. One day, Robert came to see his son. Margaret told him everything and asked him not to appear again. If he had chosen another life, he should not remember the old one. Robert understood. Michael never saw him again. When Robert died, Michael wasn't informed. Miller didn't grieve much. "Mikey!" Margaret Miller exclaimed joyfully. "How happy I am to see you. How are you? Come quickly. Tell me what happened." "Mom, I honestly don't even want to explain. The situation is bad. I'll be suing." Michael told his mother everything. She listened in silence, only shaking her head. "And how could Anna allow such a thing? I don't understand." "Mom, don't worry. It's not your problem." "How is it not mine?" Margaret Miller threw up her hands. "You're my son. I know how hard you worked, and now they're ruining your life's work. It's unfair." "What honor are you talking about? In this world, money and connections decide everything." "If that's the case, I won't give up either. I have connections too. I've saved the lives of many influential people. I think many will help." "That's right. Okay, you'll rest, and then you'll tackle the case with renewed strength. If only you'd settle down personally." "Mom," Miller said sternly, "how many times have we talked about this? Family isn't for me, and the fact that I'm out of work doesn't change anything. It's temporary." "I want grandchildren," his mother sighed. "I'm not young anymore. Time is running out, and I won't get to hold them." "Don't be sad." Michael hugged her. "Grandchildren aren't the main thing. Look how clever you are. The flower gardens are beyond praise. The neighbors are probably envious." "Oh, don't even mention it. I want more." "On that plot there," she pointed. "Will you help me dig? We need to dismantle the shed. It spoils the view." "That's what I came for." Miller laughed. "Give me a crowbar and a shovel right now." "Are you crazy? It's night. We'll start in the morning. Come on. I'll feed you pies, your favorites, with green onions." They sat in the summer kitchen. Michael listened to the crickets, admired the sunset. "It's good here," he thought. "Maybe I should quit everything. Move here, start farming. I have enough money. What do I need so much for, being alone? And medicine. What do you do if money is the main thing, not principles? I'll never accept that." "Mom," he suddenly said. "What, son?" Margaret Miller seemed to have dozed off. "I need to tell you something." "All right." His mother squinted. "I don't like your tone." "Well," Miller began, "yesterday I was coming home from work, completely exhausted, and I met a woman with a child. They looked lost, hungry. I gave them some groceries." "That's right, son. A good deed." "That's not all. They'll be staying with us for a while." "What?" His mother looked at him, not understanding. "What do you mean, staying?" "Mum, Sarah, and Lily are in a very difficult situation. They have nowhere to go. I couldn't leave them in trouble." Michael recounted everything he had learned from Sarah. His mother only gasped. "Mikey, but how could you leave complete strangers alone in the apartment? We have valuables." "What valuables, Mom?" Miller exclaimed. "They won't take anything. The girls are scared. All they need is a warm corner. I want to help Sarah find a job. I don't know why, but I trust her." "Uh-huh." Think about it yourself. Would many people agree to let her into their house? It's a questionable scheme. No, she's telling the truth. You should have seen them. Lily is almost transparent. She needs to eat well. If I can help, it's my duty. I've saved lives with my hands all my life. Why can't I with my heart? Margaret Miller looked at her son for a long time. In her eyes, doubt, but also pride that she had raised such a person. Trust, but verify, she said. When you get back, try to find out something about this woman. 3 days flew by quickly. Miller finished his tasks at the Dacha and prepared to go back to the city. Margaret Miller wanted to go with him, but he refused. He needed to prepare Sarah for her arrival and to make sure the woman had justified his trust. Mom, maybe I should bring them here instead. Lily will like it here. And Sarah, she's not afraid of physical work. She'll help you. Oh, son, I don't know. All right, you've always been smart. I hope you haven't made a mistake. Bring them. We'll see. Glad Mom gave in, Michael thought. She's hard to argue with, but she's a good person. Having packed, he drove home. The journey didn't take long. On weekdays, few people were driving into the city. Pulling up to the house, Miller looked at the windows for a long time. Nothing indicated their presence. For a moment, he was afraid. Had Sarah run away? The door was locked from the inside. He rang the doorbell. A few seconds later, Sarah opened it. She looked happy. The fear had disappeared from her face. Her cheeks didn't look sunken. "Here I am," Miller said, and entered. "How are things?" Lily ran out to meet him. She froze, looking at Miller with interest with her huge eyes. "Everything's fine," Sarah smiled. "We're drawing. Thank you for the paints. I've never seen Lily so happy." "Is that so? Show me your masterpieces. I'll make some tea." "Let me do it," Sarah offered. "By the way, I've already made lunch." "Wow," Miller exclaimed, inhaling the aroma. "Smells delicious. Then let's go to the kitchen quickly. I won't refuse an early lunch." Lily ran into the room and returned with a stack of drawings. While Sarah set the table, the girl showed them off to Miller. For a 6-year-old, Lily drew quite well. Michael was surprised. "Sarah, I think you should enroll the girl in art school. She has talent." "Really? I'd love to, but—" Michael didn't let her finish. He looked at the girl seriously. "Lily, do you want to learn to draw like real artists?" "Yes," the girl replied shyly, looking at her mother. She nodded. "Then I suggest enrolling in a school. They teach drawing there. If you're interested, we can go tomorrow." Lily just looked at her mother. Her eyes lit up. The offer interested her. "But it's probably very expensive." Sarah was embarrassed. "All right. I don't want to hear that again. Expensive or not, what difference does it make if the child has talent? It needs to be developed. I'll pay for everything. You shouldn't worry about it. If you feel uncomfortable, let's agree. You'll get back on your feet and pay me back later. Okay? Can we do that?" The woman was surprised. "Anything is possible. I'm alone. I have nowhere to put my money. I can afford to spend it on something useful." After lunch, Miller thanked Sarah. He noted that she cooked very well. "I'm going to take a nap. I'm tired from the road. Woke up early. By the way, if you want, we can go to the dacha in a few days. You'll like it there." "Maybe it's not very convenient." Sarah hesitated. "Especially with your mother." "Mum knows. I told her everything." "Seriously? How did she react? Did she scold you for bringing beggars, probably?" "First, not beggars, but people in trouble. There's a big difference. Second, she did scold me, but she calmed down quickly. She understands. She raised me this way. Many of my traits are from her. She never went to the sea, only once. But Lily was a baby. She doesn't remember. All the more reason to go. All right, I'll rest. Then we'll figure something out. Miller went to the bedroom. He fell asleep almost immediately. The tension had taken its toll. When he woke up, he found the apartment quiet. Sarah and Lily were also resting. He quietly went out. Passing the living room, he saw Sarah sitting with her back to him. She was quietly sobbing, wiping away tears unnoticed. Michael cleared his throat. Sarah started, turned around, immediately wiping away tears with her sleeve. Sorry, I didn't mean to. No, it's fine. I was just thinking. Why are you crying? What's wrong? This is a photo of my parents. Sarah held out an old, faded photograph. This is all I have left. When I ran away, I only grabbed my documents and this photo. Michael carefully took the card. In it were two happy people. The man gently hugged the woman, whose eyes were shining. Michael's breath caught in his throat. What's wrong? Sarah asked, concerned, seeing his changed face. This is your parents? Yes, the woman nodded. What were their names? My mum was Helen, and my dad was Robert. My God, Miller whispered, sinking heavily onto the sofa. Michael, are you all right? You're so pale. Should I get you some water? Without waiting for an answer, Sarah jumped up and brought a glass a few seconds later. Miller drank greedily. Thank you, he mumbled. You scared me so much. Do you have low blood pressure? My mother-in-law would go pale and faint. She had low pressure. No, Sarah, not pressure. Wait, I need to process this. Process what? The woman was surprised. Did my parents upset you? Not just upset me, Sarah dear. You'll understand now. Miller stood up abruptly and went to the dresser. He opened the bottom drawer, took out two heavy velvet photo albums. Such were popular. In each, corners, family snapshots, frozen moments of the past. Michael frantically flipped through them. What he was looking for didn't appear. Margaret Miller kept everything, but that picture, had she thrown it away? Among the empty pages, he found it. The photo was about 35 years old. That was the last time they went to the sea as a family. With a trembling hand, Miller picked up the black and white photograph. He looked at it for a long time. Looking back at him was a smiling boy with a nose smeared with sour cream. The boy was sitting on the lap of a mustachioed man. He slowly walked over to Sarah, held out the photo. The woman looked at him, not understanding. She knew this mustachioed man well. His gaze only looked stern in photos. In life, her father was kind, often laughed. How is this? Sarah looked at Miller. Where did you get a photo of my father? I don't understand. When was this? Almost 40 years ago. You weren't born yet. Michael sighed. His father was also named Robert. It can't be. Sarah jumped up, her body tensed. That doesn't happen. It does. Miller's gaze wandered in the void. He couldn't collect his thoughts. It's a coincidence. The name is common. Men look alike in old photos. I get it. It's the mustache. Sarah. Michael stood up, took her hands. You see, it's not about the mustache. Your father and my father are the same person. The confusion on the woman's face was indescribable. Emotions replaced each other. Finally, she couldn't bear it and cried. Miller held her tightly, stroking her blonde hair for a long time. The next day, Miller took Sarah and Lily to the dacha. The newfound relatives were silent. It was hard to find words. I'll tell Mum myself. Miller broke the silence. Of course, Sarah nodded. I wouldn't dare to blurt it all out right away. They hadn't told Lily anything yet. For a child, the appearance of a biological uncle wouldn't be a shock. But Michael and Sarah decided not to rush. Too much had happened. Margaret Miller was waiting for them. Having tidied up, she came out to meet them. When they got out of the car, his mother looked at the guests with disbelief. "Mom!" Miller exclaimed happily. "I'm not alone, as promised. Meet Sarah, Margaret Miller. And this is the charming Lily." "Hello," Sarah said modestly. Lily quietly squeaked. Margaret Miller's stern face softened at the sight of the girl. She loved children very much. She couldn't resist their sincerity. "Good day, girls. Glad to see you. Why are you standing? Come in quickly. I'll make lunch now. You must be tired. Hungry?" "I can help." Sarah brightened up. "Oh no, I'll manage myself." "Mum, it's rude to refuse, especially since Sarah cooks wonderfully. I was surprised by the serniki myself." "Serniki?" His mother was wary. The mention of the dish apparently touched a nerve. "Yes," Michael smiled. "You'll be surprised, but they're exactly like Dad used to make." At the mention of Robert, Margaret Miller winced. So many years had passed, and she couldn't forgive her ex-husband. For her, proud as she was, nothing was worse than such a flight from the family. "Well, we won't make serniki now," she said casually. "If you want to help, please come to the kitchen. And you, Mikey, show the girl the garden for now." "Well, Lily?" Miller winked. "Do you want to see the most beautiful flowers?" "The most beautiful?" The girl's eyes widened. "There are none more beautiful. Let's go." They went into the garden. Lily ran from flowerbed to flowerbed, inhaling the scent. "There are berries there," Michael called out. "Do you like them? The raspberries are ripe." "I don't know." She shrugged uncertainly. "Don't tell me you've never eaten raspberries." "I have, but not like this." Michael walked over, picked a handful of berries. She carefully took one, ate it. Her eyes lit up with delight. "Delicious. Can I have more?" "Of course. You can have as many as you want. The whole garden is yours." Lily laughed, ran to the bushes. She was so happy that Miller couldn't help but laugh too. He settled in a deck chair, turning his face to the sun. "Lunch!" His mother's voice. Michael woke up from his semi-slumber. Lily had eaten her fill of berries. Her face was smeared with juice. "My goodness, you're all messy. Let's go wash up, or Mum will scold you." Lily obediently followed. He turned on the hose. The girl cupped her hands, washing her face. She got all wet. In the summer kitchen, Margaret Miller and Sarah had set the table. They made okroshka, cold soup. Steam rose from the boiled potatoes with green onions. Next to them was a pile of fried chicken. "Wow," Michael exclaimed. "A real country feast." "And the main thing," Margaret Miller noted, "so fast. Sarah, dear, has golden hands. He wasn't lying that she cooks excellently. Thank you for bringing a helper." Miller noted that Sarah had already turned into Sarah, dear. His mother didn't warm up to people immediately. Apparently the girl had won her heart. Michael liked this. A serious conversation lay ahead. After lunch, Lily was taken into the house. She dozed off on the bench. Margaret Miller took Sarah into the garden to show her the flowers. Miller followed. The tour, which delighted Sarah, ended. Everyone settled in the gazebo. Sarah, unaccustomed to the fresh air, began to doze off. Michael took her into the house, laid her down next to the sleeping Lily. Returning, he sat down next to his mother. "Mom," he began coaxingly, "how do you like the girls?" "A miracle," Margaret Miller exclaimed. "I didn't expect it. I thought you'd bring an alcoholic, covered in bruises. And here's such a decent girl, and the daughter is lovely, quiet, surprised by everything, clearly not spoiled. If only you had such a wife, with a child right away. I'd accept her as my own granddaughter. That's what I wanted to talk about. Michael? His mother looked at him in surprise. Have you fallen in love with Sarah? It's only been a week, I was just joking. I have fallen in love, Mom, but not like that. How's that? She looked at him, not understanding. Can you love someone not like that? I brought something. You need to see it. He took out an envelope, carefully extracted his photograph. Look, do you remember? Margaret Miller took the card. She took a deep breath. Where did you find it? I thought I threw away all of Robert's pictures. I kept it. He's not just your husband, but my father. Former husband, she corrected. Yes, but not former father, Miller countered. Mum, I know this conversation is unpleasant. Dad hurt you badly. You couldn't forgive him. But you did find out how he lived, didn't you? I won't believe that female curiosity didn't overcome pride. You're right, Mikey, his mother sighed. However it was, I always loved your father. He hurt me badly, and perhaps I was wrong to forbid you from seeing him. And he suffered. I didn't even take money, although life wasn't easy. Pride. You can't get rid of it. I know he found happiness with Helen. I had to accept it. What was the point of making scenes, trying to get him back? We wouldn't have built happiness. And he had a daughter later. Why would I interfere with them? So I forgot. And I made you forget. And then, the accident. I didn't tell you. Robert and his wife were returning from a party, a neighbor told me. I went to the funeral. You didn't tell me. Tell what? How a drunk driver in a Volga crashed into them. There's no point discussing it. I made many mistakes. But I had the right to know. He was my father. Robert died instantly, she continued, sighing. And they tried to save Helen, but it didn't work. She was operated on at your hospital, but you were just starting out. I don't know who the surgeon was. She didn't survive. A daughter was left. I don't know where she is. She's about 10 years younger. I saw her briefly at the funeral. Blonde, ash blonde, like your Sarah. Very similar. Mum, Miller gathered himself. Sarah is my sister. What? Margaret Miller tensed with surprise. It can't be. She looks similar, of course, but you shouldn't draw such a conclusion based only on my story. Why do you think that? Michael took the second photograph from the envelope and handed it to his mother. I saw this photo at Sarah's when I got back. These are her parents. I was paralyzed when I saw her father. And then I showed her that photo. Are you saying? Yes, there's no doubt. Sarah is Dad's daughter from his second marriage. That means she's my sister. But it's incredible. Can you imagine how small the chances were of meeting, especially in such circumstances? Coincidences aren't accidental, Mikey. Miller hugged her. Apparently, someone above decided that relatives should be together. Enough suffering for them. Now everything will be all right. With Lily, you want to hold a grandchild, don't you? Granddaughter, Mom, granddaughter. Everything you wanted. But no need to wake her. There's plenty of time. Margaret Miller hugged her son and looked at the Datta windows, at the room where the mother and daughter were sleeping. A happy smile played on her face.